Yeah, hello YouTubers. Making a quick video on what I call a garage door keypad that you commonly see now. These are very popular. It's a wireless opener where you mount it on the side jamb of your garage door, and it gives you access by typically a 4-number code that you punch in on this keypad, which the reason why this is disassembled is mine quit working, and what I determined in this time around was the wire that this black wire here, I can get a pointer, came off of this mounting right here, and I hope that's in focus. And they were both soldered on this side of the circuit board, which actually faces up. This is the side you would see if you were able to open the whole back. And of course, with this being separated from the board, there's no power, and it won't work. And it's very tough to know that. You have to really get a good look at it. And I suspect this would happen possibly quite often, maybe, or at least more than just rarely, because these wires are fragile, and you're gonna, pull on this thing to connect the battery to it. It's just fragile all the way around. It's not something that I would say is well made in that respect, and what is anymore. But anyhow, the point of the video is the case on this thing is solid. There's absolutely no way on this particular brand, and I won't mention any names, it's a big garage door firm. They made this thing so you cannot open it. You can open the battery compartment, that's fine, but once you start tampering in there and want to work on this wiring, you can't reach it. In other words, I could not solder it in the position it's in because I could not get access to this area good enough to work it. So what I ended up doing was, the wire's loose, I just turned around and soldered it on the back side because I could reach that point. The problem with doing that is it's a very awkward place for a standard soldering iron, and it caused the capacitor in here to melt. This thing, they're just mounted on the board by solder, and it just fell off, and I can't do anything with it. I don't have micro soldering tools that you need now. So this thing was dead, even though I actually succeeded in making the repair. The fact that I could not remove the back on this case prohibited me from making a repair properly, which means it became junk just for a minor malfunction, which of course seems typical for anything anymore. By the way, in order to get in here, I had to use a hobby saw to cut out this panel. Funny enough, you really don't have a view on what you're cutting. I actually cut it as good as I could to get back in here, but again, because of the lapse in trying to get the thing soldered correctly, a capacitor became inoperable, and the unit wouldn't work. Lit up, but it wouldn't work. Incidentally, this is almost kind of the same situation as you have with a TV remote device, those type of things, which is another story for another day on that type of stuff. But you're faced with replacing this, which I had to do. The one I bought now, a generic type, has screws on the back cover here, which you can remove to take this apart, which is interesting because that's possibly a good way of being able to fix something like this. This is the second time this battery failed because of its inability to power the circuit board. The first time, the wire broke off on this battery connector. And just so I can clarify things, I don't have a problem working with these. If you're as old as I am and worked with transistor radios back in the 1960s, these were always somewhat fragile. And if you don't learn how to take the battery off carefully with these, usually maybe with a small screwdriver, you're possibly going to rip this apart. Well, it did separate, and I actually got another one of these and fastened it onto here at this end, and that's what these two soldered wires are all about here, and I used shrink tubing to fix it. So I've fixed this once before, and then now it failed up here. So if you have an inoperable entry code device like this, you might want to take a look closer at your connections. You almost have to have a multimeter to check the power at this point, because this will tell you up here at the circuit board whether the battery is powering the circuit board. And if you don't have 9 volts up here or close to it, this isn't going to work. That's really all I had to say. Again, I took this apart now. I busted this thing apart to get it open so I could show you the circuit board. And that's another fact. When these things are set to operate, there has to be a continual pressure pushing these onto the circuit board, otherwise it won't work. So when you cut these open and you can't fasten them back together carefully, the pad probably will not work. If you have screws holding a cover on like you do, or sometimes with the remotes for TV where you just snap it together, that's fine. But this one here, if you cut this open like I hope to have been successful, I probably would have had problems, because you have to have pressure on the back cover to keep this together. Thank you for watching. This is just a heads up video. This was a kind of a failure of repair. That's how I would call it. But there are a few videos out there on this type of device. Bye now.